This is a production of Cornell University.
Thank you for inviting me to talk today. I'll just give you a little bit of background history. So Branching Out is the IPM newsletter for trees and shrubs, and it covers insects and diseases of woody plants. So we publish every 2 weeks from April through June, and every 3 weeks from July through September. So we try to provide timely information on all aspects of pest management on woody ornamentals. The newsletter itself was started by Dr. George Hudler in the Plant Pathology department at Cornell in 1994 as a master's project for one of his graduate students. I came on board in July of 1996, and for those of you who can do math, yes, that is 20 years of writing Branching Out. So you may have heard that George has retired in January of this year, but he is still working with me on the Branching Out newsletter as the co-editor, and he says he will continue to do that for as long as I'd like to continue to do it. So, our target audience for the newsletter is tree care professionals, so arborists and golf course superintendents and urban foresters and that sort. And our goal is to inform these pest managers on the progress of insect and mite and diseases on woody ornamentals in the New York State area. And to a lesser degree, we cover occurrences of symptoms of non-infectious plant problems too, such as freezing injury and winter drying and drought. So the way we do it was we gather all this information by a combination of on-site scouting and reports from other contributors to help us prepare the articles about the pest. So, and we gather all the observations and we prepare them into a commentary about the subsequent life stages of the pest, and then scouting tips that might be helpful, and preventative or curative actions, and management alternatives as well. What I do is I drive down, I have a mix of different places that I go. So I drive downstate to Long Island, and I visit various sites and county extension offices. Then I return back to Ithaca, but along the route I make predetermined stops at Orange, Westchester, and Nassau counties on each of our trips. So this is one of our stops. We stop at Farmingdale College in Nassau County. I also stop at Hofstra University when I'm down there, and Planting Fields Arboretum as well. So it's not too terrible. Planting Fields, you may recognize, that's a very famous site that's often taken photos of at Planting Fields. And then one of the other sites we stop at was I go to a cemetery in Westchester County. Scouting in the cemetery. Some cemeteries are very barren, but this particular one has a nice mix of trees and shrubs. And luckily they don't treat anything, so that's good for me. Another day of the week, I go to the western part of New York State. I go to Finger Lakes Community College, which has a nice little arboretum there, and that's in Wayne County. And then I also go to Highland Park in Monroe County. And I revisit these specific sites in the state, so that's the same sites all the time. So I have an idea of what I'm looking for at each spot, but I get surprises all the time. You just keep an eye out for things that aren't looking good, if things a little off color, a little browning or something, or sometimes I'm looking and I'm seeing a lot of maybe ants or flies or something, and I'm like, oh, there's a lot of honeydew over there. What's happening with that plant? So by revisiting these specific sites and doing the on-site scouting, I can keep a good, I'm monitoring those pest populations on a regular basis and can keep a good eye out for that. And then I also have several sites in the Ithaca area that I scout on, including my own property, which is an abandoned Christmas tree farm. So when my husband and I bought that property 8 years ago, George asked me if we had paid extra because of all the great diseases I told him that we have on our property. So he was thrilled to hear that we had a nice infection of pine gall rust and white pine blister rust and variety of other nice conifer diseases and insects as well. We could do a scouting trip right to my property. So in addition to my own on-site scouting, I also have Cornell Cooperative Extension agents that and some arborists that help contribute observations for the scouting report section as well. And that helps kind of give a nice little snapshot of pest populations in the entire state at any given time. So that's how it's done. So the newsletter itself, in each issue, in addition to the scouting report, we include a feature article, and that gives us an opportunity to address a particular pest or other topic in more detail than we can in the other columns. So in the last several years, we've been able to upgrade and include color photos in the scouting reports as well as the feature article, thanks to some generous donations from arborists and such. And we also include growing degree days and phenology in each issue. And we try to keep the text pretty easy to read and just the right length to cover each topic. We know the tree care professionals out there are really busy, and they're just looking for a quick snapshot. They need to know, what do they need to look for this week? You know, they don't have a lot of time to read a ton of text, and so we try to boil it down to just the essentials. Okay, this is what they need, and they can just look at that or share with their staff and go right out there and use that information. So let's see, one of the things this season we hope to do is something new. George would like to make some videos, which then we would link from a QR code that we would include in the newsletter. So if any of you know George, you know that he's quite the entertainer.
This is Jen. I did want to say that we take those centerfolds, so whatever you call them, and we post them in our diagnostic lab. They're great reading. When volunteers have a little bit of time, they can peruse that, and it's very helpful because I think that what comes in often reflects that list. So
yeah, that's what we're kind of hoping is
right.
That's a reflection of what's going on out there. And so, we go downstate to scout because really they're often a week or more ahead of the rest of New York State, especially up here in central New York or a little farther north. So, it's well worth our time to go down there and to get that scouting information because they're a bit ahead. So often what we'll see last week in Long Island is just happening this week and parts farther north in New York State. Okay, so here's just a quick look at our website. Pretty simple, basic, but it's got information about subscription information. You can also look at back issues if you're not familiar with the newsletter. We've got back issues here. Idea of what the newsletter includes, it's that. Branching out self-supporting through subscription charges and donations, and the normal charge for the subscription is $50, but as Cornell Cooperative Extension educators, you can get the electronic access to branching out for no charge. So you just have to send me an email, and you can do that through Contact Us. My email address is on there. You can send us an email, and I would email you the password information you need for the 2016 season, and it changes every year. And if you're willing to help spread the word about branching out, we can provide you with subscription forms so you can have available at your county offices to bring to the attention of tree care professionals in your county. So right now we have about 400 subscribers, including some big names like the Smithsonian and Longwood Gardens and Paul Smith's College. And the majority of our readers are from New York State or the New England states, but we have a handful from other states, including Ohio and Michigan and Illinois. In addition to the newsletter, we also published a book. So it's 150 updated feature articles. It's about a 300-page book, and that is $35, which is to kind of finish up, I think, some of the things that we were really noticing this season that seemed some of the highlights are winter injury. We're seeing a lot of desiccation on spruce and true firs this spring. So we had a nice article in the last issue, in issue number 3. Sandra Jensen from the diagnostic lab wrote a nice article all about the desiccation on conifers. And so that we were getting a bunch of questions on. And right now what we're seeing out in the field is this is a time season for different rusts to be sporulating. So there's lots of cedar rust are out there in their full glory, and white pine blister rust is kind of just finishing up, but we've got pine gall rust coming. And from Don Gable down in the Botanic Garden in New York said that he thinks it's going to be a banner year for cedar rust from what he was seeing. So, and then the other interesting tidbit was we got a report from Long Island that boxwood leaf miner was emerging rather early this year. So it's really a couple weeks earlier than we expected, but it came from a very reliable source, and he even saw the pupil cases, so we're sure that he knows what he's seeing. But so I had a conversation with Dan Gilrain, and we were both surprised that it was coming out a little early, but we've included that in this week's scouting report, and that's the sort of stuff that we like to put in, things that are, maybe slightly unusual. And so we do welcome anything that's, happening in your county. We'd love to hear any information, especially if you've got outbreak situation of something. We'd like to share that with our readers so they know what's going on in the state. And it's nice for us because we can't be everywhere. Though I scout in many places, it's really just a snapshot in time. And I can't go to all the sites in New York State, but so anything that if you'd like to share with us, we'd be willing to take any information that you have to share. So, and I'm sure you've all seen the problems with blue spruce that continues. There's no one answer, unfortunately, on that one. But so we're kind of keeping an eye on seeing what's happening with the blue spruce this season. It's been kind of a problem for the last couple of years. I know many of you have seen that as well.
And we're seeing down in the lower Hudson Valley a lot more, is it spruce bud gall midge? I suspect we've been seeing it for a while, and we didn't know what we were looking at. We were finding all kinds of other things as well, and that was good enough. You know what I mean? In a sense, you're saying, oh, it's got this and it's got that. Now that we're looking for it, we're finding it in a lot of spruce samples, Norway spruce.
Okay. Yeah. We've put a little bit of information about that in the newsletter for the last couple of years. Dan Gilrain's been very helpful with that. Thank you.
This has been a production of Cornell University, on the web at cornell.edu.